Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Burlington City Council debate conducted by the Greater Burlington Partnerships Government Relations Committee. My name is Chad Palmer, and I'm with Inefficient Systems, and I will be your moderator for this evening. Our timekeeper is Mark Foster with the Greater Burlington Partnership. In the interest of time and fairness to the other candidates, I'm going to ask each candidate to observe Mark's signal, which he explained a little earlier, and stop response when time is up. We have very limited time. Being broadcast live this evening on Channel 18 as well as 1490 KBUR, thanks to Mark Morris and Kathleen Sloan of those formats. The forum will consist of rounds of questions to which each candidate will have 1 minute to respond. The order of response will be rotated so that each candidate has the opportunity to be the first to answer a question. A decision was made by the Government Relations Committee to have candidates answer questions impromptu, and candidates have not seen these questions in advance. Candidates have been placed on the stage in alphabetical order, starting with Jim Davidson, Marquez Derby, Leo Hallowell, Jeff Johnson, Kevin Long, Chris Reed, John Sandell, Tracy Watts, and Dan Wishmeyer. With that, we'll begin tonight's debate. Our first question, and I'm going to pose this to Jim Davidson. Describe the experiences in your background that make you qualified to serve on City Council, Jim.
Thank you. For 40 years, I've been a teacher in the Burlington School District. I've had an opportunity to work with people, with young students, of course, and with fellow teachers. After that, was on the City Council for 6 years, 2 years as mayor, and from 2012 and 2013, we had a changeover in city managers, and it was our responsibility. The council asked me to coordinate finding a city manager, so we ended up with a really great city manager. And working together with him in 2012 and 2013, we started this process of getting our fiscal house in order. I've had experience in that area, and I think that's what best qualifies me to jump in here and pick up on, because we're heading right into a budget session.
Marcus?
Thank you. I'm the new guy on the block. I'm young, so I don't really have a lot of experience with government. However, I do have experience in the military with leadership and those qualities. So given my leadership experience with the United States Army, I feel that I am qualified to lead and help administer the budget that we are moving into, like Jim had said, our budget session that we're going to hit. I believe that with that experience and just my general knowledge of coming to city council meetings, seeing how things are ran, I believe that a new, fresh face would help things out, and hopefully I'm your guy.
Mr. Howell?
I have just a servant's attitude. I've volunteered in several things and throughout the past 40, 45 years. I served several offices in different organizations. I had 20 years as president of my local union, the Letter Carriers Union, and also served state level. I've served on other boards. I have an accounting degree, accounting background. I love doing with numbers. I just think, like Marcus, like, fresh ideas, and being creative and not afraid to think outside the box. And I just want to give back to the city of Burlington. I've lived in this town for 10 years, in the area for 32 years.
Great. Mr. Johnson?
Thank you. I have also been a veteran. I was in the United States Navy on an aircraft carrier. I've lived in this area for 20 years. I've raised my family here. I have 8 kids, and so with that many kids in the family, know what a budget means, being able to get by with what you have. I've also I've lived in Burlington 20 years. I graduated from Mediacom, so I've been in the area for most of my life. I've also had my own business off and on, and I know how to work a budget and finance things. So Thank you.
Great. Mr. Long?
Thank you. I'm currently a small business owner in the city of Burlington. I've owned my own business since 1989. I'm also a registered scout leader with a troop here in town for the last 14 years. I've served thousands of hours of community service, giving back to people that need to be given back to. I think I have the leadership skills that it takes to help lead the city forward. I've proven so far on another board that I serve on, and I'm also a Navy veteran, so I just would like to help the working man at the community. Thank you.
Excellent. Mr. Reed?
Well, my background's quite extensive. For the past 17 years, I've been in sports medicine, athletic training, as well as an exercise physiologist. I've had the opportunity to work with different organizations, St. Louis Rams from 1996 to 2000. Been in professional tennis for about 5 years. But lately, I've been at Gray River Medical Center, where I was there for 7 years, where I helped run and direct the high performance program as well as the wellness program over there. I've thus changed a little bit. I'm over at Bickle Cycling and Fitness, where I oversee 95 different commercial accounts, from the YMCA's to the rec centers. So I oversee all their commercial division, as well as I run and operate my own fitness consulting business. So like Jim Davison, I was on the city council when we elected to hire Jim Furneaux and to steer the city in the right direction. I was a city council member from 2010 to 2014.
Excellent. Mr. Sandell?
I'm a lifelong resident of the Burlington area. I graduated from Notre Dame High School, Creighton University in Omaha. I'm an Army veteran. I spent most of my career as president and owner of a distribution firm here locally based in Burlington. We also ran the Newsland chain of bookstores. I have spent 25 years in the service to the Burlington City community. Advisory boards, city council, zoning board of adjustment. I think I'm bringing some pretty good experience, both in the business standpoint and also from the standpoint of the community service to function as a good city council member. That's it.
Mr. Watts?
I've lived in Burlington for about 10 years now, and from then I've had the pleasures of working for several different organizations in Burlington, and have learned much about leadership and guidance, and what a lot of citizens in Burlington are looking for, as in for their community leaders. I feel that I would be able to bring fresh, new ideas, just like everybody else up here really wants to do, regardless if they've been up here or not. Where the budget's concerned, the only exact experience that I've had with that is the actual management that I've had in restaurants and where I'm at now. Being able to conquer issues that most people can't, that's something I'm definitely good at. So,
Excellent. Mr. Wishmeyer?
Thank you. I'm born and raised in Burlington. I left during the Vietnam War, joined the Navy, then went into the Army. Like most of us, I'm a veteran. Have a degree in law enforcement administration. Gives you some idea of, basically it's a management course. I also have a minor in business management. And in those aspects, you learn how to deal with budgets and running things and controlling things. I retired from the military. I retired from the Burlington Hawkeye. And I presently serve on a couple organizations and boards for the city of Burlington.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Moving on to our next question. Since announcing your candidacy, it's likely that you may have done some research on the city budget. I see some head shaking, yes. What we'd like to know is, what have you learned in your research? And we'll start with Marcus Derby.
Okay, thank you. Well, I have learned that we're in debt, that we owe a lot in bond debt, in the last 2 years that Jim Furneaux has been the city manager, we have reduced that debt. I don't have the exact number there. However, I know that he has a 5-year plan that he goes extensively into with his last 2014 to 2015 budget. So if you wanted to read that, it's on the city's webpage. I believe that our real issue lies in our bond debt. You know, we need to do something about that. I believe that Jim Furneaux has a plan. I look forward to working with him and identifying how we can alleviate some of this bond debt. Thank you.
Excellent. Leo?
Well, I've looked at it too, very extensively, and I agree in everything. We need to get the bond debt paid down. I think it's possible. It'll be interesting to see the new projections for the next budget of, especially with revenue, where we're at. Just continue to be prudent. I know I'll still continue to research. Jim Furneaux, I respect him. He works for the city council. I'm going to be picking his brain and, getting all the facts and figures and what we can do. And I believe we can continue to pay down the debt, which is a big milestone, and it could very well take a while yet to do, but it's like if we can keep chipping away at it and get down that mountain instead of climbing up a mountain of debt.
Mr. Johnson?
Well, I'm a firm believer in working within your budget, within your limits. You know, if you don't have the money, you have to have a certain amount of money coming in. You can only spend a certain amount of money going out. And if you're already starting in the hole in debt, then that should be the first priority of getting that worked through. I think we also need to get some kind of guidelines about what kind of projects the city should be undertaking, and as far as how much things cost and things like that, because the reason someone lives in a city as opposed to living in the country is for what the city can offer them as far as utilities and fire department, police, and things like that. We want to be sure to cover the basics first before approaching any other kind of projects.
Excellent. Kevin?
Well, as far as the bond issue goes, I'm a firm believer that the bonds should not have been taken out unless the money had been planned, to been put forward to pay for those bonds. And if we're still paying on those bonds, that tells me the money wasn't set aside, or the money hasn't been incurred to help pay off them bonds. So there was no really any plan ahead. I kind of like to think if you're going to spend that money, you either have it or you have a plan in effect to pay those bonds back. So the city's in debt. That issue needs to be taken care of. If some cuts have to be made in certain areas, I'm not talking about jobs. I'm talking about maybe the way the city spends money on some of the services, maybe where they get their supplies from.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Mr. Reed?
Well, unfortunately, our situation hasn't changed that much from last year. Yes, we still have a high bond debt with large sum within the Recplex as well as the Flint Hills Golf Course. Our tax levy is one of the about the third highest group within the state at over almost $16. We always have to watch our revenue versus expenses. Other people have stated up here, you treat it like it's your own money. If you don't have the money, you can't spend it. But one of the things that I think we need to start doing is looking outside the box. How do we minimize our cuts and keeping our amenities? One of the things that I really would like to see forward in the future is start to look at shared services, not only with West Burlington, Des Moines County, but that's looking at police and fire protection between those two, streets departments, parks departments. So what you're doing is you're decreasing the redundancies, you're decreasing the staffing. So in the long term, you're going to save money for all the entities.
Excellent. John?
Well, the first thing I learned was that the city's general fund is under attack. We have tremendous demands on the general fund. The second thing I learned is that you can hide an awful lot of negative results in a budget. And I think that has gone on in the past. I don't think it's going on under this current city management, but I think it went on in the past. The third thing I learned was the debt is extremely too high, 82% basically of the allowable amount the state allows. And the last thing I learned was that the mandates are killing us. The sewer mandate is killing us. It's responsible for a large number of sewer fees, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not interested in raising taxes. Burlington has not got an income problem, it has a spending problem.
Excellent. Tracy?
Okay, well, I don't have as much experience with the budget issue as everyone else does. I can tell you that I did look at the budget and I did try to understand it to the best of my knowledge, with even asking questions with people. And the best way for me as a community member going up to be a leader is to sit down with actual members of the city council and a budget committee and to pick their brains, to ask them what's going on, because you fully are not going to understand it. Well, I'm not going to anyway, until I actually get right into it. I can read a piece of paper all day long, but who's to say I'm actually going to understand it until I actually go for it?
You bet. Dan?
I have not looked at the past city budgets. I'm thinking about the budget that is coming up, starting here in January. We need to make some changes. I think there's ways to do it, do it over the long run. I'm in favor of renewable energy to decrease some of our, like utility bills and things like that. Thank you.
Excellent. So our third question tonight,
Get a chance?
oh, I'm sorry, Jim, my goodness.
Sorry, Jim.
That's what happens when I was at the end of the run there, you know? Jim, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Thank you, Chad. What I've learned by looking at the budget is that the five-year plan that we set in motion in 2012, when Jim Furneaux came on and the city council got together and agreed upon a set of financial guidelines and where to go, the plan is working. It was supposed to be a five-year plan, now I understand it's a six-year plan. In that, just the 2 years since it's been in action, we started out with roughly $10 million in deficit accounts, and now we're down to a little over $2 million in deficit accounts. In the same time, the general fund cash balance has increased from like 1% up to about 6%. Our goal that we set was 15%, so we've got a ways to go there. At the same time, our debt limit projections, we were at 80.5% in 2012. They're down to 71, almost 72% of the debt limit right now. So the plan is working, and that's basically why I want to be on council, is to make sure we stay on the plan.
Excellent. Sorry about that. So Marcus, you'll be the one I forget on this question. So our third question is, to balance a budget, governments can either increase revenue, cut expenses, or both. And some of you sort of answered this question, so you'll already be there. But what should the city of Burlington do? And please be specific. And Leo, we'll start with you.
Well, I don't know, very specific. We basically need to try to get the Burlington Crossing marketed, be more aggressive on that, maybe different developer or local multiple developers. If we can get that on the tax rolls, that would definitely increase the revenue. And as far as expenses, there could be some tweaks in some of the departments by my observation, watching and everything, but so it's we can do both. We can kind of maybe at least be more efficient, but yet we can increase our revenue.
Excellent. Mr. Johnson.
I think it's important to get the input from the community, because there's, a large number of people that are willing to share their opinions and give us ideas on what needs to be done specifically. I don't think that piece of property they're talking about developing up there really should have been, I don't think the city should have gotten into that to begin with. And now that we are into it, it's a problem. So I think that spending really needs to be hammered on more than it has been. It's really difficult to increase revenue. It's a whole lot easier to decrease spending.
Kevin?
Well, I'd like to see the city keep the services that it has for everyone right now without any compromise. I think we can maintain pretty much the streets, everything that we've got going on that's good for the community. But then in the second source, we have to go and we have to find the funding for that. And to get the funding for that goes back to paying the debt off. We're going to have to pay the debt off, so we'll have the extra funding to take care of these projects that need to be done, because we have a failing infrastructure in this town that needs to be addressed. Thank you.
Chris?
Well, like I was sort of alluding to in the previous question, we need to start thinking differently, think outside the box, because, we want to cut our taxes and we want to keep all our amenities. I was starting to talk a little bit about the shared services. I will personally spearhead conversations with West Burlington, Des Moines County, and other cities on how we can share, personnel. How can we share equipment? So you're looking at police, fire protection with their equipment and their staffing, as well as streets departments, parks departments, so on and so forth. Because what that ultimately does is that cuts the overhead. That it decreases the redundancies that we have. If you live in the city, not only are you paying for some city services that we offer, but you're also paying for counties too. So we have to look at that, as well as I'll also start the conversations with the unions for employee benefits and see how we could start moving forward with those contract talks.
Excellent. Mr. Sandell?
Well, Burlington has a spending problem, not a revenue problem, as I stated earlier. Any enterprise fund that's getting funds transferred to it from the general fund, as far as I'm concerned, would be the first place we would look to cut. That would include golf course, that would include recplex, that would include the auditorium. We've made some good strides, I think, in the auditorium. I think we made some good strides in the recplex. The 12-13 budget, I think there was only a $30,000 or $32,000 deficit. But, I'm sorry, yeah, 12-13. But you cannot fix that problem overnight. I think they're on have a very good plan. They've increased fund balances in this community, in the city's accounting charts by $2.3 million this last year, and they should be commended for doing that.
Excellent. Tracy?
Well, definitely there's got to be some cuts and there's definitely got to be some revenue. So, I mean, both of those are definitely essential. I truly believe that we are on a visual right track for Burlington financially. I know that it might not be seen now, but the more that the community members, I'm speaking from experience, the more that we see things are being done, as in our roads, the old Kmart building being transformed into several different businesses. These are things that people want, and this is going to generate more revenue for us. This is going to we're going to be able to pay more people, city and, community. It's going to be an all-around favorable thing. I believe that if we have more, we will have more visitors, which will also bring more revenue for the city of Burlington.
Excellent. Dan?
Thank you. As I mentioned before, renewable energy. The city has approximately, I think it's about 10 buildings that they're responsible for. One of them, the Port Building, has solar panels on it, producing, I'm not sure, I think a couple of kilowatt hours per day. If each of these buildings that they own had solar panels on them, they could decrease the electric bill, save some money. What you save goes into the fund. The city workers that work at City Hall are driving Crown Victorias that have been used pretty heavily by the police department. Why can't they use smaller cars to do their daily tasks? Saving on fuel, saving on repair cost, such as that.
near and dear to my heart there, Dan, with the energy efficiency thing. Jim?
Okay, we have a little editorial comment.
Sorry about that.
Definitely, if you have the choice of raising taxes or decreasing expenses, at this point, there's no doubt taxes are as high as they need to go. It was our goal at the time to set a tax rate that could stay the same over the course of that 5-year period. And I believe we're at that point with, I think it's 15.93, which is too high according to the note I saw on the comparisons. We're like 13th out of the top 22 cities in the state of Iowa. That's as high as I would prefer it to go, and hopefully we're going to be able to move it down a little bit on this upcoming budget cycle. One thing that's really been a big improvement this past year is the sales tax revenue. There was the reconciliation payment was like $325,000, and we had budgeted $200 for it, so there was an extra $125,000 that came in there. The hotel motel tax is going higher, and I ran out of time to say to get more revenue, you need to make the city attractive, and I got some more thoughts about that.
Marcus?
Thank you. First, you said either balance the budget by increasing revenues or cutting. I don't think that we can necessarily cut more than we already have. I mean, there's still probably some fat there that we can trim off, but there's not much left. I mean, look at our police department, our fire department, the library. You know, all of these places have already been attacked by the budget cuts. So I don't think that we can go down that road any further. I think we're already in too deep. Like Jim said, our tax is extremely high. I mean, he alluded to it, that we're in the top 15 in the state in tax, you know. So with that, we can't go any higher on that avenue. So what we need to do is, like the council has been talking about, increasing the Flint Hills Golf Course admission fees. I think that's a great start, but I don't think that's enough. We need to go back to the Recplex. I understand that we're still negative to the Recplex. $2 a head is not enough. We need to be charging a little bit more than that. And going back to the sewer fund, I think that we need to address that too. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. For our fourth question, we're going to have Kathleen Sloan from the Hawkeye pose the next question for us. Kathleen?
Thank you. The longest discussed and most divisive ordinance passed by the current city council so far is the 100% 10-year tax abatement for new construction or renovation in a 110 block area, which takes up a large portion of the original layout of the city of Burlington from 1838. Do you agree with this ordinance? And if not, how would you solve the blight problem in this area?
We'll start with Jeff Johnson.
Well, I understand the concept of tax abatement, but I think 10 years is a little long. The whole idea is to get businesses to, move in and do something with an area. And to do that, you entice them by having a tax abatement. But it's just as easy for them to use up that 10 years and then move on somewhere else. So I don't know if that's, 10 years seems a bit long for me.
Mr. Long?
On this 10-year tax abatement deal, is there a piece of property that's going to be erected on that 110 acres? Could you answer that question for me?
It's a 110 block area.
110 block area?
And the building is already there.
Okay.
In this older part of town. And so it's only for residential construction, and if you build a new unit or renovate so that there's a new living unit, you will get 100% of your taxes abated for 10 years.
I would not agree with that. It is too long, for one thing, that we're losing revenue, and those buildings are already there. Why can't they be utilized as a tax base now?
Mr. Reed?
When this came up to the current city council, I did contact some of them and discuss this in depth. And one of the things is that I do believe the 10-year overall tax abatement was a little high. I was, looking at more around the 5-year. But also don't limit that to that 110 block area. Open up that to citywide. And the reason why is because blighted areas, there are state and federal grants out there. Blighted downtown development, there's grants out there. So there's a lot of grants to rehab areas of the city. But what that does is that tells developers and investors, sorry, we don't want you to build outside of that 110 block area. Right now, we have a housing shortage, and there's developers out there that want to build mid-level homes, but they would like some type of tax abatement that's greater than 3 years outside that block area.
Excellent. John?
I'm generally opposed to giving tax abatements to just certain people in the community, certain areas. I think a good example is our residential tax abatement we have now on when you buy a home or build a home. It applies citywide. When we designate an area, and we're basically telling the rest of the community, we don't care about you as much as we care about them. I think that's wrong. As far as the blight you mentioned, Kathleen, I'm not sure what to do about blight except for two things. One would be to foster a situation where somebody who wants to come in and rehab those buildings would do that. And secondly, presumably they would be in retail or in entertainment venues, and that would mean we have to increase the population, increase their market here. They'll come and build with us if we have a big enough market.
Excellent. Tracy?
I actually agree with Chris. But the thing is with that, the 10 years definitely, I don't agree with the 10-year. If you decide that you really want to do the 10-year, why not split it up, with the 5 and 5? I do agree with that. What you should do, in my opinion, is to encourage it to be citywide, and not just the residential area. I do feel that that after the first 5 years, you would get your tax abatement, as in, it would be a thank you, kind of. You get to revamp, because most of the time with your taxes, you're going to end up, your extra money, you're going to end up revamping your organization in some way, shape, or form. So after the first 5 years, I think that they should have that opportunity.
Okay. Dan?
Well, we're stuck with 10 years. That was handed to us. It probably should have been 5, but it's 10. You're looking at that 110 blocks, houses that were probably built in, or at least 100 years old. There's buildings that are 100 years old. You're talking asbestos, you're talking major renovation work on these buildings. You're talking major money to tear them down. The people that want to work on them, remodel their homes, ought to get some kind of tax break for doing it. Help them pay their expenses. Again, someone else mentioned it should be more than 110 blocks. It should be from border to border, as far as I'm concerned.
Mr. Davidson?
First of all, I agree with Dan. The policy's there, and so unless someone brings it up again at the next council, it's going to be there. If you're asking me would I have voted for that, I would say no, I would not have voted for that. I was in favor of the previous structure that we had. And actually, I prefer tax rebates as opposed to abatements, like the agreements we have with the Weingart Company. The way that works is when they improve their property and they pay their taxes, then they get rebated the taxes on the improvements. I think that's a better plan than upfront abatements. As far as the blight process goes, that area is designated as a blighted area for tax code advantages. It doesn't necessarily mean it's a slum district, but it's a kind of entitled only, I would say, and with the facade improvements that are going on downtown, you're going to see just a tremendous difference, which I think will encourage more development.
Excellent. Marcus?
I don't know, I don't agree with it, but like these guys have said, yes, it's already there. Unless somebody, like Jim said, proposes this to come up again, or any one of us, if elected, proposes an amendment to the current 100% abatement, then we're stuck with it. like we've already said. However, if we do decide that we want to bring it up and amend, what I would amend is, or propose, is a 5-year plan with a 5-tier system. So you start at 100%, at year 1, year 2, you go to 80%, year 3, 60%, 4, 40%, and 20% at year 5. So then at year 6, you have no tax abatement left there. But I do believe that it should be border to border, like these guys have said.
Excellent. Leo?
Well, I'm not, the way it's worded now, I'm totally not in favor of it. First time I ever saw with TIF was, I spent 30 years working in Mount Pleasant, also my hometown. They started that up there, I don't know, back in the 80s, and I know one of the first benefits, and people kind of growled, was with Walmart distribution center coming in. But with it, when the first 5 years were up, which was zero, it was 100%, Sam Walton doubled the size of that distribution center. By the time everything come on, I mean, they started having property tax come in, revenue coming in. I'm more for like 5 years, citywide, and possibly even, increment and differently, maybe not 100% for 3 years and 80% for 3 years, and just do a downscale over a 10-year period.
Excellent, thanks for your answers. That question actually kind of leads us into our next one here, which, what should be city government's role in promoting economic development? And we'll get started with Kevin Long.
Well, obviously, over the course of the years, the city of Burlington has no business being in business, as we can see by some of the investments that the city has made as far as the Manor project. I mean, that's just a sore example right there. But, I mean, the city should promote economic development. I would agree with some of these other guys. Within a 5-year deal, first year, maybe no taxes, second year, increase in taxes, so on up to the 5th year.
Excellent. Chris Reed?
Well, first, we have to understand what the overall city role is. I feel the city's responsibility is to offer core services. That's your police, fire protection, that's your infrastructure, so your roads, your bridges, and your sewers. I believe we have a great partnership right now with the chamber in helping grow our economic development. You guys are our marketing arm. And the closer we could work with you guys, the more progress we are going to have in the future. And how I say that is, you guys are out selling Burlington and the greater Burlington area, because a company may come into West Burlington, but Burlington's going to reap the benefits, because those individuals are going to shop in our stores and so on and so forth. The Convention Business Bureau does a tremendous job of selling them. Last year, they had 7 major events going on that brought extra revenue because of hotel motel tax to the area. And people were here on a consistent basis. If that's the Recplex, if that's the Red Hat Ladies Organization or the Optimist Club, having a good partnership with the chamber is key.
John Sandell?
Little history. When we chose to fund BADCO, prior to the Burlington Partnership, the BADCO organization, to do economic development with primarily money from the gambling boat. I was on the council when that decision was made. That was a good decision, and still a good decision. I think that the city has no business being in the promotion of business. I think that should be done by somebody who really has to work within a limited amount of funds. Be that as it may, we can, as Chris is saying, foster some areas that we can cooperate with the potential business. And I think the first place is the tax rate. I think the tax rate needs to be very attractive to them. Iowa's got a disadvantage right now and out of state because of the income tax, the high perception of the income tax. So that'd be our first place to go.
Mr. Watts?
I have mixed feelings on that. I really think that Burlington as a whole should seek any type of new business, regardless of this situation, as long as it's not going to make the city of Burlington I guess, go into any type of deficit or anything like that, but I do not feel that Burlington should be a real estate agent. I do not feel that that's their job. I think their job is to more or less be best friends with somebody in that manner in order to get things done.
Okay. Dan Wishmeyer.
I kind of agree with Mr. Reed, but I think economic development should be, the city council, the city leadership should be in that ballgame. How else are you going to grow your city if you don't promote your city from the leadership? Working with outside agencies, chamber, downtown partners, things like that, help us do that job. Mr. Reed mentioned that the infrastructure is probably the primary, but economic development has to be right beside it or right next to it.
Excellent. Jim Davidson.
I agree that the partnership we have with the Greater Burlington Partnership is crucial. You have an economic development arm that's working hard on our behalf, and that's good. I have never been in favor of cities getting involved in this whole abatement process, but that's the climate we live in, and so we have to adjust to that. I believe that the way you promote economic development is, first of all, is your public safety core group is sound, so that people understand that they are safe in this community. The second thing is you need to make the city attractive, and one way to do that is to take care of your streets. And right now, one of the major problems we have is the state is not funding the road use tax fund, and that's hurting us dramatically. So we're having to bond for street repairs. That should never have to happen. It should be ongoing. And then we need to be in a sound financial position, which we're headed for, with a stable and decreasing tax levy to attract business.
Marcus.
Thank you. I agree with these guys. The Greater Burlington Partnership and the Chamber are great tools that we have as a community, and we need to continue our partnership and our obligations with them, because the increased economic growth of our community will ultimately bring in more people. More people means more tax money. More tax money means less debt. So I think, like he was saying, our roads, yes, that's probably our main hit right now is, people don't want to move to our area. They say our roads are garbage. Well, we can fix that, but we can't fix that without the money coming in. And I'm not saying that we need to dabble into bringing a business in, but we at least need to use those partnerships that we have to the best of our advantage to bring those businesses in.
Leo.
I think the only business we should be in is the thing was, especially Chris, he's been taking my thoughts out of my brain. I don't know how he's doing it. But basically in everything that the cores of police, fire, and the infrastructure of the streets, and especially as Jim alluded to and everything. And, if we can get our tax levy down, that will attract people. But I commend highly the Chamber of Commerce and Greater Burlington. They have done a lot. I've seen the effects, and I just last night or Monday night's council meeting, I'm very impressed what they do. The people that's working with Jason in that capacity, I commend them all.
And Jeff?
That's kind of a tough question, and I think it's a tough question that a lot of communities are dealing with, not just Burlington. I do not think that the city of Burlington should be running businesses themselves. I just think that's not appropriate. I think that we should be using the sources that have been mentioned, the Greater Burlington, to attract businesses here, and I also agree with the streets. The first impressions are a big deal when people come to Burlington. If the streets are in poor repair, or if there's a lot of businesses that are closed up and empty, that speaks volumes too. So I think in order to sell Burlington, we need to fix up some of those problems so that we have a better appearance, from the first impression when people try to come to Burlington.
Excellent. So Next question. The City of Burlington has talked for several years about a new building for the police department. Several might be an understatement. In your opinion, what should the city do to provide for the real estate needs of the police department, and how should it be paid for? And we'll start with Chris Reed.
Well, unfortunately, the city police department is in dire need of repairs. And when they moved in that facility, or that building, they probably should never have been there in the first place. We've had to move the county attorney out of there and all his offices, and because there was problems with storage of files and how the files were weighing down the floor. It's an important building in Burlington, but I also think it partly needs to go with the shared services, bringing Des Moines County on board, and maybe even looking at bringing West Burlington on board too, and finding the building that will fit everybody together. Because right now, we share a jail with Des Moines County, we share services out there with Des Moines County, so how can you pull them together? And then what redundancies can we take care of on the administrative side to better serve the public and to decrease our overall costs? Like I said, we've looked at the US Bank building before, we've looked at other buildings. It needs to be done, and it probably should be done within the next 5 years.
John.
I was on the council when that building was purchased. It was purchased for a 15 to 20-year life, and the price we paid for it was really a 15 to 20-year life. We got it for a song. I think that the first thing we have to do is get the debt down substantially, because building a new police department is going to be a capital project, and that's what you bond for, is capital projects. So if we can get the debt down to the point where we can go ahead and issue the $7 or $8 or $9 million bond that will take to build a new police department, then we should do that. It's unfortunate that we have had an opportunity to pick up the Washington School lot, and I think that's been sold. So that would have been an ideal spot for the police and fire both, but certainly for the police department.
Tracy.
Well, there's no question that we definitely need a new police station. Well, I'll see if I can talk. And from what I remember, we've tried to join with Des Moines County before, and it didn't work. I do agree with trying to join forces either with Des Moines County, West Burlington, all three. I think it would save the area a lot of money to be able to do that. I don't know if there's any type of grants or anything to push it forward. I don't know if we can get more community involvement in it. But I do believe that it is something that is a necessity, and we do need to put the facility in an area that's going to serve the whole area, not just Burlington.
Dan.
I believe the sheriff, or the sheriffs, Des Moines County has said they don't or cannot afford to go with Burlington in on a shared service for the sheriff and police department. Again, the building was purchased for 20 years. It's way past 20 years. You need to budget the money to build a new police station somewhere. Take, for example, the old industrial arts building and parking, or lot now, building's gone, behind the old high school, up on Jefferson, or in, Valley. It's sitting there. You can put a police department up there, centrally located. What about one of the old school buildings? I believe it's Perkins School on Summer Street is for sale. Things like that we need to think about.
Mr. Davidson.
Yes, I've long favored combined sheriff's, city police department. That last time we tried to work on that, it didn't go, because they felt they didn't need a facility, but maybe now that it's 5 years further down the road, perhaps we can have another discussion about that. I believe that currently there's a 5-year capital improvement project schedule. I think this should be the next thing that goes on the list in the new CIP that's coming up in the current budget. This would be a bond that would have to be approved by the voters, I believe, which would take a 60% majority. So again, there'd have to be a lot of sales job on that too. And where it's located, I'm open. I think obviously we need a new building.
Marcus?
It's pretty obvious we need a new building. I mean, everybody up here has agreed on that. So, we need a new building. Now, the time frame on the new building, that's a different question. Right now, we can't afford a new building. And with our current credit rating, we can't even bond for that new building. And our bond debt at 72%, we can't bond for a new building. So until we bring some of this bond debt down, we're not going to be able to take on that responsibility. And like Jim said, I'm okay with it going anywhere as long as it gets done, but it's not going to be able to get done, say this year, next year. It might be 7 years down the road. We may just have to nickel and dime what we have right now until we can get a new building. But it is imperative that we do get a new facility. And that would go to the overall economic development by saying, hey, we have a new building here. More people want to come.
Leo?
Well, I think we do definitely need a new police station. Being a Skywarm member, our ops is in the basement. Tell you what, kind of wonder when people walk across the floor, somebody's going to fall down on you. And it gets, it gets a little scary. I felt times there were some buildings and opportunities, and it could have been a joint venture of both sheriff and police moving into. Seemed like they said dollar amounts. I know one of the things was the Kmart building. I don't know what they wanted to do for infrastructure to make that into such. I saw, again, I'm going to a town that's only third or fourth of town the size of Burlington. That was Mount Pleasant. The police department's in an old grocery store up there. And, I mean, they just felt like they went to heaven when they moved in there. And they're right by the sheriff's office. I remember back when they shared the same quarters in the jail all together.
Mr. Johnson?
Well, I'd like to have a new car. I can't afford a new car, and I don't want to take out a loan to get a new car. So guess what I do? I fix the one I have, and I make do. Sure, I'd like to plan in the future for getting something better, but that's down the road. We're talking about paying down the debt we already have, and then on the other hand, trying to incur more debt to produce a new police building. It doesn't have to be a shiny, brand-new thing that the best one that's around in the whole state, just so it gets the job done. And there's also been talk about what to do with all these empty buildings. I think we could combine those two ideas, couldn't we? There's been a lot of buildings around here that have been empty for years. The old Walmart building is one example. They use the two outside edges, but they never use the center part, and that's been how many years ago? Quite a number. So that would be my idea, to just think about it, put it off for a while.
Kevin?
Yeah, I'd like to see a joint operation between the Burlington PD and the Sheriff's Department. I'd support that. As far as the county spending the money, that's up to them, and it's up to the city to spend the money for their part. But I agree with these other fellows here. I would not spend my money for a police station right now until we get some debt paid off. If in dire need, I'm sure the police department can rent a building, set up an operation in an abandoned building that we had sitting here, but I'm not in favor of taking property off the tax books, to start a police station. If anything, it needs to be centrally located. If they don't want to centrally locate it, then build it next to the jail. But I think a joint police force would be an ideal opportunity for the county and the city both.
Excellent, thank you. Mark Morris with KBUR will be posing our next question.
Thanks, Chad. Gentlemen, what would you do to make Burlington more welcoming?
And it is John Sandel's turn to start.
Well, first of all, I think I would get rid of that machine that we have that fixes paved streets by seal coating them, fixes the potholes by seal coating them. That would be a great first step. I would not seal coat Valley Street ever again, for example. So obviously our streets are in terrible shape, and our streets will have to be addressed. And unfortunately, that may be some construction. When you talk construction, you're talking about increasing the debt. I would like to see continuation of the facade program. It's a limited start right now downtown. But downtown isn't the only part of our community. We have very good neighborhood areas. Maple Street used to be a great place. This can come around again too. It's going to take increasing the population and having a bigger market.
Tracy?
I do feel that the infrastructure, as in the streets, that is one of our biggest, definitely one of our biggest things that we need to tackle, and that's a lot of money. But I also feel that we, as city government, need to be more involved in our communities, as in going out and, first of all, I work at Hy-Vee for iWireless, and I hear consistently, like, people don't even know who their city councilmen are. I think that if we get out there and get more involved in the community, I think that all the way around is going to make our community better. I think that would bring more businesses because our community members would be more aware of what's going on. They have more to say. I think getting involved in the schools, helping the kids out, that's going to help right there.
Excellent. Dan Wishmeyer?
As mentioned before, infrastructure, roads, sidewalks, that needs to be fixed. Again, it costs money. I think, and I'm not sure how to answer this question, a city beautification project should be undertaken. Some of the blighted buildings were mentioned before, probably should come down. Make it attractive to people that are coming here. That's about all I have on the subject.
Jim?
I've mentioned already that the streets are really a big priority for me. Just briefly about the downtown facade project. I was on that tour with Steve a couple Sundays ago. It's just really a neat project. They have a $500,000 grant, and that sounds like a lot of money, but when you start putting it in old buildings, it doesn't really go very far. But it's going to be really a neat improvement for that stretch of Jefferson Street. I think the neighborhood associations have made a big impact. The South Hill Neighborhood Association, for instance, has done a great job. They're a vibrant group. They're doing a lot over there in the Maple Street area. And I believe there's one on the north side of town also. Also, I like the community policing idea that Chief Baird is working toward, getting the police department more involved and active so that people out there see the police department as their friends. And I think that's important too.
Marcus?
First, I'd like to start with our flood mitigation plan that, as most of you know, there was a meeting on it. There's actually been 3. I think that we need to be 100% on board with that plan, because if we fix our riverfront, we fix a lot of our problems there as well, because people are moving out all the time to find other buildings. Like right now, we have the post office that's up in the old Tom's building. You know, if we make our downtown more attractive with the flood mitigation plan, the downtown facade program, maybe even promoting downtown urban development, you know, and us as council members becoming more involved in the community, I think that overall helps Burlington become more welcoming. People are going to want to come here. They're going to say, hey, these guys are improving their community. They're not just sitting back and riding the hog till the end of the sunset.
Leo?
I just basically think to me is the infrastructure of streets and roads to make those attractive. Anything else, I think that's where a partnership comes in with the Chamber and the Greater Grove Burlington, making like with helping. I mean, yeah, we're going to have to put in some infrastructure with the flood mitigation plan. We got to keep where we have access to the river, but yet at the same time prevent the loss of businesses and stuff. I know that's a very costly. I know there's grant money out there. Hopefully we can get from FEMA, Homeland Security, grant money. But like I say, it comes down to the streets. It comes down to the streets. You know, people want to be able to get from here to there smoothly without wrecking their car.
Jeff Johnson.
I think you kind of been dancing around the same questions. Seems or some of the same answers over and over about different things. Obviously, the streets. I think they need to have more input from the community on what they think should be done instead of just trying to sit here thinking all by yourselves. Well, what can we do? Because there's a lot of. I think that's part of what the city council should be doing is listening and eliciting input from the community to find out what can be done and what people would be willing to put up with, because there again we're talking about more outlay of money when we're trying to pay off debt, so you kind of got to decide which way you're heading.
Kevin.
Yeah, I kind of agree with John Sandell down here about getting rid of that seal coating machine. I think we ought to put some curbs in, some concrete. That would make the streets look better, but infrastructure is just a start. As, a resident of the community, I'd like to see my tax revenue money distributed equally throughout the city to beautify the whole town at once, not in just one section. I support the stuff that goes downtown, like the flood wall and stuff like that, but I think we should treat all the residents fairly when it comes to distributing tax money, not just target certain areas. What's good on the north side should be good on the south side too, and the east and the west.
Chris?
Burlington has made some great strides in the past couple of years with, the facade project that's going on right now, as well as looking at the flood mitigation plans, as well as the neighborhood programs that Mr. Davison pointed out. But number one, we need to work with, the governor and his office on talking about the road use tax. I think that's key because, as stated earlier, we are bonding money to repair our roads that we cannot afford. Right now, we have one bridge that's closed down, Cascade Bridge, that connects our city parks to our downtown. We have a Mount Pleasant Street overpass that's in dire need. And then the other day, I was driving down Roosevelt, even though that's controlled by the DOT. If you look over 34 overpass, you will see rebar on the structure of the road. So that bridge is now deteriorating. So we need to work with the governor on a road use tax. That will help our streets, that will allow us not to bond, that will make our city better, as well as take some guidance from Coralville and their aspect on how they did their streetscape project all the way through the main streets of Coralville.
Yeah, very good. So, Jeff, you alluded to this a little bit. We are kind of dancing around with some of the same answers here, but this next question is about infrastructure projects. And what public infrastructure projects are currently on the table that you would consider bonding for? Which public infrastructure projects that are currently on the table would you consider bonding for? And which infrastructure projects should not be financed through debt, in your opinion? And this time we'll start with Tracy Watts.
Well, I'm not 100% familiar with the whole bonding process, but from listening to everyone else, I do not feel that bonding is going to be the answer for any of it. As of right now, just from the budget from listening, we have too much of that going on. So in order to get anything done, we really need to be looking towards the community. I'm always going to say that. You look towards the community. If there's a suggestion from them that we can take that may lead us further into the future rather than worried about getting money given to us from states or doing loaning money, if there's something that we can do that the community can suggest that we can do on our own, I think that would be a lot better.
Dan.
Well, somewhere between a new police station and Cascade Bridge and the Osborne Street overpass, those should be three on our list right there. Whether or not they be the top three or in what order, I have no idea. Streets should be right up there with those other three projects. I would put streets first, because our streets are, I mean, they're horrible. So, for projects, infrastructure, the police station, streets, the two bridges, or the bridge and the overpass.
And are there any of them that you would disagree with, that you don't think should be on the table?
Not right now, no. I have no idea what capital projects are on the list.
Thank you, Dan. Jim?
Most of the capital projects that are on the list that require bonding are the streets and the bridge. The rest of the stuff that's on the capital improvement is coming from some other revenue source. A lot of it is coming from sales tax revenue. One of the things that I'm really pleased about, when I came on council, we were bonding for things like garbage trucks, and I kept saying, this is ridiculous. Why in the world are we bonding for garbage trucks? Those should be paid for out of operating revenue. So thankfully, we've gotten over that issue. Just think about how much a garbage truck costs over a 20-year period when you bond for it. I mean, that was just ridiculous. The things that you're bonding for now on the CIP plan would be the Mount Pleasant Bridge in the future. The streets, like I say, unfortunately, we have to bond for them because we're not getting the road use tax fund. And somewhere down the road, Cascade Bridge, I've always been in favor of that, but that's going to have to be pushed back now, in my view, because the police department needs to be addressed before the bridge.
Excellent. Marcus?
Thank you. Looking at the capital improvement projects, right now, like he was saying, the four major hits are the Mount Pleasant Street Bridge Rehab Project, Resurfacing, Reconstruction, Rehabilitation Program, and miscellaneous street upgrade programs. So pretty much all three of those things we've already talked about is streets, infrastructure. So going back to that, we're going to have to pay down our debt. That's what we're going to have to do. You know, we got to fix our streets. We shouldn't be borrowing to fix our streets, but that's the conundrum that we're in, and that's why we're going into this budget session. We know we have to deal with this. We just have to spearhead it, fix the issue, so then we can go to the next issue, which is Cascade, or, you know, the sewer project that we're mandated by the state. Those are things that we still need to worry about that we're not.
Leo?
I don't think any of these projects should be taken off the table. It's just getting the priority. And then I agree with Marcus, you know, we've got to get that debt down. And I think Jim's kind of alluded to that too, and everything, that, you know, and for bonding for streets is one of the things you have to bond for. I'm very much aware of that. This comes down to that road use tax. And I know that's been something that we can do to lobby the governor and our legislatures, maybe increasing the state gas sales tax. Nobody likes to see that, but we're, for where we're set in the Midwest, we're, of course, 18 cents a gallon less in Illinois. We're 8 cents a gallon higher than Missouri, but, you know, if we need to get our roads built, even, we got to get roads coming in here built too, and everything coming into Burlington to make it easier.
Jeff?
More spending and more problems. I think that you better stick within the budget, and if you have things where you're bonding for road repairs, that's just ridiculous. That's kind of like paying for your groceries with a credit card. You know, it's never a good idea. It should never be done. If you have a budget, you have a certain amount of money, you need to work. That's what working a budget is work to find out where you can shift things around. That's you know, some of those are going to hurt. That's just life, you know. But we do need to have streets repaired and things like that without incurring more debt. That's just the facts of life. You know, you have to work the budget.
Kevin?
Several years ago, I think it was during the Manor Project, I checked with the state of Iowa to see how much debt a town our size could be in, and I think that figure was $50 million. And at that point, I think we was knocking at 48 million, pretty close, maybe a little bit over that, and I'm thinking, how could that spending get so far out of control? $48 million for a town the size of 27,000 people. And that would explain it. The bond issues, I couldn't approve any bonds. You don't have the money, you don't spend it. Am I in favor of getting that stuff done? Yeah, but I'm also in favor of getting out of debt so that we could afford to fiscally take that on ourselves. And if anything, like some of these other guys mentioned, talk to the state of Iowa. What will they offer us to fix our roads?
Chris Reed?
Infrastructure, infrastructure, infrastructure. Those are very important things that you need to have within a city, and your roads and bridges fall under infrastructure. If you don't have good roads, and if you don't have good bridges where people could get to and from their work, to and from what they want to be doing, it's hard to spur economic development. It's hard to grow a city. Right now, Southeast Iowa is in the bottom third of road quality according to the DOT. We have to improve our roads and we have to improve our bridges. That is putting pressure on the governor and our legislation to look at the road use tax. I don't like the bond for roads. I don't like the bond for bridges, but it has to be done. Because right now, we have Mount Pleasant Street overpass. We have Cascade. We have major problems. I will agree with John Siddell for the first time in life. Let's get rid of the seal coat process. It's horrible. You should not have gravel roads in your city.
John, let's hear from you.
Somebody agrees with me, how about
I'm
that?
sorry.
I would prioritize the projects as, number one, Mount Pleasant Street Viaduct. Number two, new street construction. In other words, the streets are just failed so miserably we can't patch them up anymore. And then everything else would be either kicked down the road or off a table. And I would kick the police department down the road. I would kick the enclosed building at the Recplex, if it required bonding, down the road. I would kick Cascade Bridge off the table. It serves 18 homes. That's basically what it serves, and it serves 1/3 of the precincts that would use it to get to the parks. And you don't need that. We can do that a different way.
So our last question tonight is about quality of life and amenities here in Burlington. And which quality of life amenities would you like to see added or improved here in Burlington? And we're going to start our last question off with Dan Wishmeyer.
There needs to be more for the young people of this community to do in this community. You have a fun park owned by a private investor. It's open from Memorial Day to Labor Day. The Rexplex, ball fields, things like that. Activities for the youth of this community to do. Because when I graduated from high school a long time ago, my classmates scattered to the wind, and they are still scattered. A few of us have come back, but for most part, they live elsewhere. That is what one of the things we should do.
Mr. Davidson?
This is a tough question for me. I believe in quality of life. I think we have some outstanding parks, probably the most beautiful parks in any city our size in the state of Iowa and perhaps even in the Midwest. I'm not in favor of government providing something that private enterprise can do. I think if you want to do an indoor recplex, that's great. I think it'd be a super amenity. But I'm not in favor of Burlington city government paying for it. I think some private enterprise can handle that position, if they can somehow figure out the finances to make it work. Obviously, the current recplex is operating at a deficit, and so how much more would an indoor recplex operate as a deficit? And we just can't afford to do that. So, and that's my time is up.
Marcus?
Thank you. The indoor recplex idea, just like Jim said, we already have a private enterprise that does that. It's the YMCA. So, I mean, we need to direct our youth back to the YMCA to do those things. They have late night programs for the kids in high school. You know, we could, maybe with the city promote that, through a partnership, if we could make a partnership. I'm gonna go back to the flood mitigation plan, because ultimately, if we go 100% on board with the bond, or not with the bonding, with the grant funding, with the flood mitigation plan, if we can make that a enticing area, maybe our youth is going to utilize that area for either boating or, you know, their activities. If we can get maybe a beach activity type area up there. You know, we gotta look at other things outside of the box to make our community better. I mean, it's already great. Like Jim said, we have great parks, great parks. We need to use them.
Leo?
I'm fairly pleased with all the amenities we have here, with Jim and everything, the Recplex and stuff, and we've got Fun City. If things like that want to be built, I think business could find a way to finance it and do the revenue. That's us, we're getting into business. We got enough business of our own just with the city alone, with the infrastructure. And so I think we're setting pretty good. I agree with Marcus, the riverfront could be, and it's going to be incorporated into this flood mitigation plan to still keep it beautiful, but yet to protection.
Mr. Johnson?
I think we have quite a few amenities already that maybe people aren't aware of, you know, and I think that advertising what we do have would be a good thing to do and would not cost very much to do. In addition to the things that have already been mentioned, you know, there's a lot of area churches that have youth programs that people don't know about, you know, so we could help advertise those type of things for something for the youth to do. One thing that I used to live in Urbandale for a while, and one of the things that I really liked about Urbandale was that they had bike trails, a lot of them, and that's one thing that I think would be a good idea to incorporate. I know we have a few, but not many.
Kevin?
Yeah, I think this town offers a lot of amenities to the residents and people that visit this town. We've got Mosquito Park, Griffith Park, Dankwood Park, a little park over there on South Street, one on North Hill. I mean, we're park poor. Anyway, there's a lot of nostalgic things. We have trails to walk. We have Star Cave Nature Center. There's a lot of things to do if you're an outdoors person and fixing up the riverfront. I do see kids down there every once in a while fishing right off of the railing along the river now, so that's a plus. Utilize the riverfront.
Chris Reed?
Number one, I want to start out by saying Burlington's a great place to live, work, and play. We have a lot of great amenities, like everybody's stated. I'm actually in support of the indoor recplex, but only if it's run like a business. We cannot go in debt with it. So we need to start thinking outside the box within the city on how we could grow it and how we could bring more revenue in. But first off, like I said, run it like a business. Looking forward, let's join partnerships with Burlington High School, West Burlington, Notre Dame. Provide them rental space for basketball courts. Right now, one of the biggest issues out there is gym space. There are people going in at 6:30 in the morning. There's people practicing at 7:30, 8 o'clock at night. There's tons of select teams out there that don't have gym rentals that they could use. You know, let's also take something out of the Purple and Gray Foundation, how they went out and attacked donations from not only people that live in Burlington, but also outside.
Sorry, Chris, but John?
Chad, would you state the question one more time?
What we're looking for is what amenities or quality of life amenities that you think should be added to
Yeah,
Burlington?
we're looking for new ones.
Yeah.
I think the private sector should determine what those are.
All right.
Is that 45 seconds?
Yeah. So Tracy?
Take my 45 seconds of closing.
I agree with him. I do feel that the private sector should take care of the extras, as in, we've all stated, we don't have the funds in order to create more. But I do feel that we have quite a bit going on in Burlington. I just think that the location of these, like the Rexplex, kids on the south side and the north side, they can't make it out there all the time. And there is no, besides the bus system, some parents don't feel comfortable sending their kids on a bus or in a cab. So I think that if we are able to bring something closer to the areas, as in, say, just do, you can even do city-funded things at the park. That way it's not costing us additional money, just getting more involved.
All right. Well, listen, that is the end of our questions for this evening. We do have time for some closing statements, and we're going to allow 90 seconds for that. Mark's resetting the clock here for us. So we're going to start those closing comments with Jim Davidson.
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank you guys for hosting this event, and thanks everybody for tuning in. I also want to thank these other 8 gentlemen for putting themselves out here. It's always a challenge. And I will say, having been on council before, that's also a challenge, particularly in these times when we're looking at budget cuts. Every time you look at something that you want to consider cutting, there's always voices out there saying, oh, no, you can't do that, you can't do that. So it's a lot of hard decisions. I want to implore you folks out there in the community, please vote. There's got to be more than 10% of you that are going to be able to show up at the polls, so please do that. We have enough candidates that hopefully will attract a large number of voters. As I said, I was a teacher in the Burlington School District. I have a bachelor and master's degree from the University of Northern Iowa. I have 40 years teachers, and my thing is always I'm here to serve the community. That's why I got involved in the city council in the first place. I never would have thought of doing that while I was teaching, but I love to serve. And if you vote for me, you are going to get a stable voice on the city council for good government. You'll get somebody that's going to thoughtfully and prayerfully consider everything that comes before us. And you're going to get somebody who's dedicated. If you ask Mayor Pro Tem Reed how many meetings he got to conduct while he was Mayor Pro Tem, he'll tell you he didn't get to conduct any. So you're going to get what you pay for when you get me.
Thank you. Marcus?
Well, first I want to say thank you for hosting this event. And yes, thank you for everyone who did watch. We're thrilled to have the audience and have the opportunity to stand up here and say what we want to say and hopefully answer all of you guys' questions out there at home. I want to start off with saying that it is a great honor to be able to run for City Council. I feel that this is a humbling experience, whether you elect me or not. I hope that you, like Jim said, go out and vote, because like he said, there's only 10% in the last election. It's unacceptable. I mean, we have 26,000 people. We should at least have 26,000 people voting, because if you care about your community, this is how you voice you caring. With that said, I am very passionate about this. You know, I'm very passionate about government. I'm very passionate about our community. I want to see things get better. I'm young. I mean, I'm 28, so if we can do this, let's start now, so maybe we can have something better for our kids or our grandchildren. That's what we want. We want something grand, and the best way to do that is to start with our community. If we have our own little niche, we can call it ours. Let's do this together. Thank you.
Mr. Howell?
First, I want to say thank you to the Greater Burlington Partnership, Hawkeye, KBR 1490, and Jason and Mark and everything putting this all together. This has, Marcus said, it's a humbling experience. I have a great faith, and my faith and led me to even doing this. I never really dreamed of it before at all. I just have 3 key things that came to my mind that I would be who I am, and that was empowerment, service, and teamwork. And empowerment is empowering all the employees of the city. And I like Chris. He already kind of stole my thunder a little bit with think outside the box. That is one of the things. You got to dream. Not all dreams are practical or able to do, but need. And Jeff said about the churches getting involved with something with anemones, faith-based. It'd be nice to see this town and city become a more faith-based, and where been with the community policing or what have you, could be out with these churches, and people, community citizens would all get to know everybody and very well. And I've seen that happen, in fact, with Joplin, Missouri. And I saw it after the tornado went through. I was down there within 36 hours, spent a week down there. But it was just, I will never forget that experience.
Jeff Johnson?
I think my major focus is to work within our means, to work within the budget. I have lived in Burlington for 20 years, and I know the ins and outs of Burlington and living in Burlington, and it's a good place to live, that we have a lot of things going for us. I think we should be looking at past successes and past failures and try to learn from them as we plan forward and hopefully attract more businesses and more people to Burlington to live here.
Excellent. Kevin Long?
Yeah, like I said, I've pretty much been a lifelong resident of Burlington, and I do run my own business, and I fix things that are broken every day, and that's what I do for a living. I think the town's broken, and I think the town needs fixed. And if you vote for me, there won't be any bonds that I vote for, obviously, and I would like to see the city debt paid down before any bonds would come up to issue for vote. We live in a great community here, friendly people. The infrastructure's failing. I think if we all work together, we get a good city council in here that would butt heads or put their heads together either way, whatever it takes to make things work. And get rid of that seal coat machine, right, John?
Yes, sir.
And fix the roads up like they're supposed to be. But I will actually, I'll work for the community. I work with the public now. I'm voicing some of their opinions tonight as to where the town needs to go, and I want to see Burlington grow. And we got a good neighbor south of us. Things were looking really down until that fertilizer plant went up south of town. And now we have to just go with the flow, and I think it's time to move forward.
Excellent. Mr. Reed?
Well, first off, I want to thank the Chamber for putting on this event, thank the Hawkeye for covering it, as well as KBUR for asking the questions and reporting on this. This special election is not really necessarily about us 9 people sitting in front of you. It's about you, the voter, and about you, the voter, who feels will best represent you and who you want to sort of go to battle with you. We have a high tax levy. We need to get that down. And, that's what it's about. And plus, we represent you. We don't represent certain individuals out there or companies. City council member should represent the whole city. I always want to make that clear. With me, you have somebody that's not afraid to sit down with West Burlington, not afraid to sit down with the supervisors of Des Moines County or other taxing entities, and to try to come up with common goals that we could use together, that we could work together in trying to help share services, lower decrease some redundancies, as well as start having the conversations that need to be had with the unions out there about employee benefits. There's nothing wrong with start having the conversations. We just can't negotiate. But lastly, I want to thank my wife, Christy, and my 2 kids, Connor and Audrey, for giving me the support and, and for the running. But I also want to congratulate everybody for being up here. And please get out and vote December 2nd.
Excellent. John Sendell?
I'm running for council because of my desire to serve the community, my hometown. I bring real-world business experience and community service experience to the table. I'm interested in and I favor high-quality services that affect all of our citizens. I'm interested in favor of prioritizing all city functions done in a public setting. I'm interested in prioritizing those services where private enterprise can reduce costs or provide a better service. I'm certainly on line with Mr. Long about controlling spending and reducing the debt, basically putting our fiscal house back on a good track. And it also includes, I am not interested in raising taxes or fees. Okay. I'm asking for your vote on December 2nd and December 9th. Certainly all 9 of us up here could do a good job, probably. I think I can do the best job. I'm asking for your vote. Thank you.
Mr. Watts?
Not only are we supposed to be elected as a city council member, but we are also a member of the community. And in turn, we have to listen to our community. And from the years past, I believe that the community has been extremely silent, not just because of city council. I do feel that city council needs to be more active in their community, and the community itself has to be more active in its city government. Like I said earlier, I constantly hear people talking about what's going wrong, everything about, just everything, leaves on the street, just everything. Street sweepers not doing their job. But if you don't come out and you don't actually vote, you have no right whatsoever to downgrade somebody else for something that we are here to serve you for. So if you don't speak up, we can't serve you. That's all we have. All you have to do is speak up, get out and vote. Let us know who you really want to serve you, and we will do a good job. We will try. We will try for you.
Thank you. Dan Wishmeyer?
Last but not least, I echo the sentiments of the gentleman sitting with me. Thank you to Greater Burlington Partnership, KBUR, the Hawkeye. I echo the sentiments of get out and vote. One of the reasons I got in this, a current sitting councilman was adamant that they needed to appoint somebody to this position rather than elect them, because 2 or 3% of the voters are going to turn out. I wanted to prove him a liar. I would like to see 10%, maybe 12%, as many as we can get. I agree with a lot of these things the gentlemen have said here. I disagree with a lot more of what they said here. We've basically all said the same thing in many different ways. I think the one sentiment I want to leave you with is get out and vote. Thank you.
Excellent. Well, thank you, gentlemen, for your interest in serving the Burlington community, and I applaud your courage for running for a seat on the city council. Also, a big thank you to the Greater Burlington Partnership and the Government Relations Committee for putting this on tonight. And thank those in the audience here who have been watching and listening at home for your interest in the city council election. And to echo everyone's sentiments up there, please get out and vote. Have a good evening.
You too.